Hold on. Woo! Hello, everybody out there in Facebook world, TikTok land, YouTube, everywhere. This is going to go live and go out to in small clippets or in stories or wherever, which includes not just, it's going to be on Instagram, it's going to be on Facebook, it's going to be here on TikTok, it's going to be on YouTube, like I said. So, welcome to the broadcast booth, everybody. I am Monty Anderson, your host here at 412 Productions, The Art of Monty Anderson. And today's title is Action Figures. Basically, picking up your childhood, if you will. Yes, I'm coming on a little bit later than I normally would. You get that sleepy time going on. But action figures, man. The childhood action figures at that. Oh, last year, I did a little bit of a trade on some action figures and on a piece of artwork that I was doing. And and it was pretty cool. So it was they paid cash plus I got some action figures out of the deal. So it was a win-win for everybody. And one of the two of the action figures, I can't remember what all I got actually, but I did pick up a couple of nice Thundercats action figures. If you have, if you ever watched the Thundercats or anything like that, you know that Thundercats are pretty cool. Making sure my microphone is on. But welcome to the broadcast booth, everybody that are stopping in, checking out, flipping through. We're talking about action figures today. Here we talk about all kinds of stuff. We talk about your action figures. We talk about movies, especially horror and sci-fi. We talk about artwork. We talk about comic book artwork. We talk about all kinds of cool stuff. So if you're here and you have some comments that you'd like to throw out that are those related, please do. If you're going to talk politics, take a hike. If you're going to talk religion, take a hike. Because those are the two things that make people lose their damn minds the fastest, and we don't talk about those here. So, if you're going to talk about that, go start your own platform or your own channel. But that here is not what we talk about. We talk about, like I said, comic books, my artwork. This is my artwork on a comic book for Legacy Comics, The Job Number 3. A painted cover I did for them right here. Getting shot at by the police right there. Because they're criminals, they rob banks and other establishments for money. So there you go. Um, but with that being said, you pick up action figures that appeal to you, or if you pick up action figures at all. Some people don't believe in doing that type of thing. Um, it's just like the whole craze with the I don't even know how you pronounce them, Labubu or Labu, whatever they are. Those little scary faced little bunny doll things. I don't even know what the hell they are, but that's the big craze right now. And um, I don't understand them. They're not something I would get into, but apparently a lot of 30 something females love them and and guys do too, I guess. And then the younger generation love them. Yes, I am backwards. Let me change that. I forget that because I wish they would just take that mirror off. But appreciate that. Um, I wish they would just take that whole mirror shit off and be done with it. But I appreciate that. I forget whenever I come on here that I'm supposed to flip that around. So I appreciate you telling me out there. Um, and so I don't understand that whole Labubu craze or whatever the hell it is, and but so many people are getting caught up in it that come this time next year, it probably won't even be a thing. You know, and people are paying thousands upon thousands. Good morning out there, and people are paying thousands upon thousands on for these things for certain ones. You know, but I mean, in reality, it's no different than some of the stuff that we chase. You know, as people that chase action figures and things like that. Um, I mean, just look at the Star Wars figures, the originals from back in the '70s, and people pay upwards of $1,000 for specific ones of those. And it's so it's no different. Every generation has a craze. You know, awesome. What concert did you guys go see? So Mr. Captain Dominic took his girlfriend to a concert Tuesday night for their anniversary. And how long have you guys been together? Those are the two questions everybody wants to know right now. And don't forget to like, share, and follow if you're going to be here for us, and because that helps us out as well. And hopefully some of my regulars come on as well, and we'll be showing some of the action figures from my childhood and things of that nature. Um, but yeah, no. So crazes happen as they go. Hailstorm and Lindsey Sterling. That's a good concert. Uh, 20 years. Well, congratulations on that. And but yeah, Hailstorm and Lindsey Sterling and Apocalyptica. That'd be a good concert. I'd like to see Hailstorm. Haven't seen them yet. I think they've blown through here once. I could be wrong on that, but I think they have. I need to go see them. Take the girlfriend up there to see them. But yeah, I love their music and great stuff right there. Hopefully, it was a great set for you guys, and I'm sure it was. Just the lineup that I'm looking at right there. So that would be a cool concert to be at. We were supposed to go see Chris Idelia, but the venue closed. We were supposed to be seeing him the 21st at Temple Live in Fort Smith, Arkansas, but the management decided to shut the doors permanently. So, well, that's awesome. Like I said, hopefully it was a great time, and I'm sure it was. Because Hailstorm, from what I've seen, puts on a great show, great live performance. Apocalyptica would be a good one to see too. Like their music, and then Lindsey Sterling. She's the basically electric fiddle player, right? I could be wrong on that, but I think that's who she is. I didn't hear anything. Well, I'm on. So I'm sure it was a great show all the way around. Had by all. All right. So today we're talking about action figures. Awesome, awesome. I'm glad it was a great show for you guys because that's always fun. It kind of sucks whenever you go to a concert and somebody in there just sucks. You know, um, I have not polished the quartz crystals yet. Bum, bum, bum. They're still here. They're still sitting in front of me. Now some of them I'm gonna put. I'm gonna try some different steps with these this time. Now some of these don't even need polish. Period, Casey. When it comes down to it, because I mean they're already glistening and don't need any polishing. But some of them need a little bit of polishing, and I'll go ahead and do that. But welcome to the broadcast booth, Casey. Glad to see you out there. We're talking action figures today. I gotta break out the tumblers. They're in a tote. We just gave a friend of ours. He's usually on here as well, Mr. Roy. Um, I've started to hand polish like Lake Michigan stones, mostly from boredom, but it is fun. Yeah, I want to try the buffing style with the buffing wheel and stuff like that. But I've also got two tumblers. So I'm probably going to end up putting several of these crystals into a tumbler, just to get rid of some of these rough edges and things like that. Like with this one, this one was broken during I guess the dig process from the uh, excavator that they use or whatever. So you can see that it's got that concave section in it right there, and then that end right there is all shattered. So if I put it in a tumbler, it should polish it up nicely. Put it through the three stages that it goes through. But I also want to do the hand buffing on those too, just because I want to see what they'll look like whenever it goes through the process of both processes, the tumbler, the rock tumbler, and then also the other hand method. So yeah, that would be awesome. He said it'd be nice to have a 16-ton gem from that cave in Mexico. I mean, hell, I'd settle for finding a 4 carat diamond at the diamond mine here in Arkansas. You know, I mean, that'd be like pulling this right here, you know, for a diamond and be set for a while anyway. I wouldn't say for life, for life, but if you manage your money correctly and do some savings and this and that and the other, you could be set for life if you found a 4 carat diamond, you know. But but no, the crystal mines are awesome and they're fun and we love them because we have a lot more fun there than we do at the diamond mine. Just because we found a couple of small rocks and crystals and stuff like that. So I lived in the Ozarks. I found a lot of arrowheads there. See, that's what we're looking for too. We're starting to do the river walking, and so we're trying to find the better spots on the rivers to find the arrowheads and things like that. Um, but yeah, we got the Washita Mountains and the Washita Forest and things like that, and so and it's part of the Ozarks, and we just haven't found any arrowheads yet, or spear tips or anything like that. You know, in Baxter County, I will keep that in mind. I'm actually going to write that down because everybody's got their little spots that they find tons at, and as they're just walking around on the creeks and looking at the river bank edge off the creek and and all that good stuff. But we have yet to find one. Just walking around. Now, as a kid, my sister and I used to find them all the time. You know, whenever we would walk around. But Jordan area specifically. Okay, much appreciated. We will start doing some of that. All right. But yeah, no, we had a blast doing the crystal mine, especially this time when we went to the Avant crystal mine, um, up in Mount Ida area, and it was super fun. You know, like I said, we brought back a ton more than we did when we went to the Ron Coleman mine. Um, watch out for the hellbenders. Okay, I'm gonna have to look up what a hellbender is. a new term to me. No one's ever talked about the Hellbenders. So, oh, okay. Very rare, very protected lizard. Okay, so that sounds like the boomers. They're a very aggressive lizard, if you will. Um, and it might actually be the same lizard. I don't know, but you never. People call them different things in different spots. So that, but that's very cool. I appreciate that info. We will watch out for those. About 3 foot long. Some boomers can get up to about that, but generally they're probably about a foot to a foot and a half. So yeah, I mean I would be willing to find some hellbenders. 100%. Risk be my sponsor, but that would be cool. So it's not like this Godzilla right here, huh? No, it's not like Godzilla. Okay. He needs a new repaint. I don't know what happened to him, but he's been through the ringer. I can't remember where we got him actually. But he's been through the ringer quite a bit. He needs a repaint. He needs a touch up. But giant salamander. Okay, cool. I might even bring one of them home. No, if they're protected, you can't bring them home. So that's the sad part about it all. They might be cool, but you can't have them. It's just like skunks here in Arkansas. Since they are a high carrier of rabies, you can't own a skunk. You know, unless you have the proper paperwork as a rehabber or wildlife conservative and all that good stuff, which we do not have. Although we rescue animals on a regular basis and release them back into the wild, we are kind of like rehabbers. But since I have the homestead and all that good stuff, we get to do all kinds of cool stuff with aminals, and so most of them get released back into the wild. We have a porch possum. He's hanging out. A little baby showed up on our porch one day, just like the kitten that we're trying to rehab and find a new home for. And so that's always fun. So already taken it and got it. All kinds of different things for it. But hopefully we can find a home for him very very soon and go from there. All right, so back to the action figures. Who collects action figures? Anybody? Anybody out there? Um, when I was this is Warehouse 20 is where this one came from. Dun, dun, dun. So Warehouse 20 right there. They print their own labels, and which is very awesome. Um, they have a nice little. I'm assuming it's a laser printer because that's what it looks like. It's very well done. And you know, and since I collect action figures, and we did a trade, like I said, for some Thundercats figures, some Lion-O figures, and they had two of them with the Snarf figure that came with them. A monkey for 10. That's awesome. My girlfriend would love to have a monkey. So here's the Snarf figure that comes with the Lion-O figure, and it does have a date on the back. Um, I'm trying to read it. I'm blind here. 1985 is what it says on the back right there. Some of you weren't even alive whenever this toy was made. But right there, 1985, came with this little ring right here that you could wear. Just got to make sure. Oh, it's one of my rechargeables. So that's where my rechargeables went. It's probably dead. So this was your standard Lion-O figure right here. Okay. So he does have his sword of omens. Again, it needs a little touch up too. But a 1985 toy and it still looks this good. I'm not complaining. You know. So you've got it in there. And then, whenever he does his Thundercats, Thundercats, Thundercats ho, you can throw that up there and all that good stuff. So there's a little lever on the back. He's got his shield of protection here, which is his hand shield, which had nice little claws on it. And, so he could protect himself. And then you could do this, and again, oh no, it does work. You can see his eyes light up right there. So it is still have some power in it. It does have some power, but you can see his eyes light up right there. So you guys up there can see it. Looks better up there actually. Right there. There you go. And so as a kid, I had these toys as a kid, and at the time I didn't know it came in two flavors. And what do I mean by that? Orange hair, red hair. So you got a variance of the same figure. As a kid, I didn't know that. I didn't realize that there was two different colors of hair. So I had the red one. And so once I found out that there was an orange one too, and the arm guard came in orange as well over the red, bum bum bum. So you got the red and orange, red and orange. I was like, no way. I didn't realize there was a variant of that action figure. So I went ahead and got both of them from Warehouse 20. My friend Norm and his wife Sarah, we made a deal. I painted her a Twin Peaks painting. I don't know if some of you guys might not know what Twin Peaks is. It was a nostalgia TV show in the 90s. Um, Kyle MacLachlan and written by, he just passed away a couple years ago. Um, See, I can't pull his name up right off the top of my head. But it was a great TV show, and um, a very it was a thriller, semi horror type TV show. Had a main killer theme that took place in this uh, TV show, and it was very trippy, very psychedelic, very out there. David Lynch, that's who it was. David Lynch production, and it was a huge hit whenever it came out, especially from the first episode. Um, and then it did get a little out there towards the end, and so the ending kind of didn't make sense of how they just finished it, you know. And then the movies were supposed to tie into it, just like the X Files had the two movies, or X amount of movies that came out with it, and they were supposed to explain more of the TV show. Um, it kind of fell flat on the movies. Um, Fire Walk with Me and what was the other one? I could be wrong on the. But then they did a reunion show, kind of like the X Files did, X amount of years later, and it just kind of was like, eh, and it was just like, okay, well, so you guys just wanted to continue the story, but um, it kind of just fell. Yeah, it was just a little too late. It was kind of like whenever they brought out the second X Files movie. It was just felt like it was like 10 years after the end of the TV show, and it was just like, why, why are we doing this movie now? You know, and it was nice for them to bring back the next two seasons of the X Files. Um, and then I'm now hearing that they were in the works of basically kind of continuing the X Files in this generation, today and now, with basically Mulder and Scully as consultants to uh, the new people taking over the X Files. So I don't know if they're going to push that or not. If they do, they do. If they don't, they don't. I'm good either way. I loved the X Files. That was my show. Besides Twin Peaks back in the day, and it was just great. Those shows I loved 100%. I just didn't like how they ended some of them. You and that's the bad. At least they had endings. Unlike, let's take Lost in Space didn't have an ending. Star Trek didn't have an ending. They just ended. Boom, done. Like, wait a minute, this doesn't explain anything, you know. And so, a lot of TV shows, once they hit their cancellation time, boom, they were done. We're finished. We're not writing any more episodes. We're not gonna explain anything past this, you know. Um, it's like First Blood with Dexter. They were renewed for a season two, but they canceled it. You know, it's like, well, I mean, we don't technically need his growing up years to see how he became Dexter, because your very first season got into how he became Dexter, but we would like to see a season two to explain a little bit more, those type things. So if you're a Dexter fan, you're not going to get more of the new blood um, whenever first started becoming the serial person that he is, you know. And so if you were hoping for that, I'm sorry, it's not happening, you know. And but we still have action figures. Another action figure I picked up was this original Mego Mr. Spock. I wish he still had his Atremons, his gear, you know, because that, even though the action figure itself is great, you know, it would still be nice to have his shirt, his uh, tricorder, his blaster, all that good stuff. You know, you got to think this is from 1970s. I think 78, and they didn't even put real boots on them. You know, they went as high as the knee and just did black for the whole thing, so that whenever his pants were there, it shows you that, hey, I've got boots on. But no, you've got a leg that is black, almost like a prosthetic. So, but somewhere on here with his blue underwear, see, they gave him underwear. They gave the action figures underwear back in the day, you know. And somewhere on here, trying to figure out where it is. I thought it was on the leg, but there's a date on here somewhere. Okay, his is all over the back. So, Mego Corporation, registered U.S. patent, made in Hong Kong, of course. Um, 1974. There it is. It's on his neck. So whenever he had his jacket on, I'm just trying to read it all. They couldn't even put the T for Paramount on there. But yeah, right around his neck, right up here, is the whole slogan right there. Right up on his neck. So 1974 is when this action figure was made. And yes, he's wrapped in plastic. He's fantastic. Um, Goes with my Robin up here, who's in the Batman outfit. Another Mego action figure from back in the day. Someone decided instead of the Robin outfit, they would put the Batman outfit on him. And again, he's another one from that time period, and they did put it on their necks on all of them. Um, Still made in Hong Kong. I can't tell you the exact date on this one. 19. Okay, this one was 1972 for his. So there you go. You know, I have a 1964 and 1969 GI Joe. 69 had hair. Yes, I remember the hair action figures. So I had a few of those. I still wish I had some of those. I still wish I had all my collection from back in the days when I was a kid, from the 70s and 80s. Because I had all the Masters of the Universe, I had all the GI Joe originals, I had all the original Star Wars. Some of them were a little bit beat up because I played with my action figures. I didn't keep them in the packaging like you know, I didn't know they'd be collectibles growing up. I had all the Archies. That's awesome. See, that's cool. That's the nostalgic, the joys of having those toys and growing up with those toys. Um, and then you see them later, and you're looking at the price of them, and you're like, holy smokes! I should have kept those. I should have kept them in the package, or should have kept the package altogether. You know, it's just like some of these up here. I don't have them all in here. I just have a few, like the Princess Leia, right here. She is encapsulated. Princess Leia, original. She doesn't have her blaster, but she has her original cape, all that goody good stuff right there. And you know, she can be $100 figure by herself. And then you've got your snow troopers here. This one doesn't have his cape. This one has the cape. Excuse me. But these are $20 action figures by themselves. You and then you get the two different variants of the Han Solo. You get the big head, the normal head. You've got the two variations of the Obi-Wan Kenobi's, the gray hair, the white hair. I mean, the list goes on and on. And they had little variants and where they were made and the type different things like that. And if you get into these collector groups, people go nuts, with all the information. Well, this one was a specific line of this, and it came out this time before this one, and so on and so forth, which is good knowledge to have. But I don't even go that deep sometimes. I'm like, it's a cool action figure. I want it, you know. But I'm not going to spend $200 for an action figure. And then I see some of the guys that are like, yeah, I spent, um, I spent $1,000 on this action figure. Did I spend too much? Yes, but no. I mean, if that's what you wanted to spend on that action figure, sure, go ahead. You know, funny how happy those things made me as a kid. No, I mean that's the joy of being a kid. You know, if you were able, like, I didn't always get the action figures I wanted as a kid. I got a lot of action figures, and because my parents tried to feed into that with the GI Joes and the Star Wars and the Masters of the Universe He Man stuff, you know, and so I had a ton of toys as a kid, and um, it's like that's the nostalgia of childhood, you know. It's getting those toys and just playing with them. I used to shoot BBs at Obi Wan, you know. So there was one that had a BB stuck right in his head, as a kid, and I didn't think there were going to be anything later on. They were just toys to me, you know. Um, hanging a Ken doll, and my sister freaked out about it. Well, I mean, I can understand that because the tendencies could be there to be something else. The next Dexter right there in Casey. But no, I used to do all kinds of stuff with mine as well. Now I don't know about the that aspect of it, but I used to hang them by their feet or shoot at them or you know burn some of them, those type things. That's awesome. No, my sister didn't play with Barbie dolls and stuff like that. So Ken and Barbie were never in the house unless my mother had them in a display case, a curio cabinet. That was the only way we were having Ken and Barbie at the house because my mother collected that type of stuff. So, you know, My sister did not. My brother didn't have any of that type of stuff, and I was the only one that had action figures per se. Um, so whenever I found, trying to see if he's in here or not. I don't see him over there. I don't know if you guys remember Battlestar Galactica back in the day when they had that monkey in that dog suit, basically. It had the metal ring around his neck, the eyes, the ears, all that stuff, and it had that long. The only way I can describe his tail was a rear end plug, um, and that's what it looked like. and so um, I found one of those at a place in town called Savers, and it's a $60 toy in just in a bag for like $5 with all these other toys, you know. So once I saw him in there, and I can't remember what his name is, but they had a literal monkey inside the suit of this basically dog that was on set, and I can't remember what his name is right now, but it was on Battlestar Galactica, and it had the metal rings going down its body, And if I knew where I put him, I thought he was right there on my shelf, but I don't see him up there. At least not right here, anyway. But anyway, um, a $70 toy just chilling there in a $5 package, So it was a no brainer that I had to get it because I had some of those as a kid, along with other Battlestar Galactica action figures and things like that. You know, I had so many action figures that I wish I still had today. Uh, some that you don't even see out on the market anymore, or can't even find. And it's just like, man, I was an idiot when I sold it all off in the '90s, you know, because I didn't want to move it from house to house every time I moved, you know, and at the time I thought I got a decent trade, you know, $300 cash and $300 trade, for comic books at a comic book convention, and carrying this big ass box that was probably about 4 foot tall, you know. Yeah, hindsight is 2020, 100%. And I smack myself around every now and again. It's like, you idiot. Uh, uh, uh. It's like, man, the money you could have today. Because mine were still in decent, I wouldn't say mint condition, because they were played with condition, just like he's not in mint condition, period. You know, you can see a little bit of wear and tear on him, like on the tips of his toes, those type things where the color is changing off. But for the most part, I mean, these are in, relatively, I can't say mint condition just because, but it's just one of those things that it's your childhood right here, you know, and yeah, you wish you had your childhood still, you know, and it's all those reminders that things change, you know, because I didn't think I'd be back into collecting action figures or, back into collecting comic books the way I used to. And I'm really not that big into collecting comics now. If I see a comic title that hits me or the cover is really cool, I'll pick it up. But there's nothing that I just have to buy. Just because unless it's my own cover. Because a lot of them just don't hit me the way they did, whenever I first started collecting. And now as I'm looking at it, as I'm getting older, my kids aren't talking to me. It's like, well, do I just start selling this stuff off now? Because are they going to want this stuff, later on? Once I die, are they going to want this stuff? You know? especially since they're not talking to me after the second divorce. You know, believing what she told them and haven't even heard my side of the story. And so it's just like, well, who's it going to then? I could give it to my nephew and leave it to him in my will, but they are my kids. So they would still be in the will. But and do I have a will? Not yet. I've got to make it up. You know, and then it's like, so at that point in time, what am I going to do with all these collectibles? Am I going to leave it for them to sort through, or do I go ahead and just start selling this stuff off now that I recollected it? You know, and it's like I really don't know what I want to do with it yet. Because like, what are they gonna do with some 1950s Ajax Archer figures? You know, born in the 1950s. These figures. Get rid of this little tag right here because I don't need it on there because they're not going anywhere. These action figures from the 1950s. The Ajax Archer figures. Hard plastic spacemen. Right there. And it's like your army men from way back when. Now this one, is he broken? No, that's his fist. That's his hand right there. I was like, is he broken? No. You've got your different army men, if you will. Metropolis right here. Now she is broken right there on that side. That side has been broken off. That wing for her should be symmetrical right there. Hands up or hands down. Back up, back up. Tell me what you're gonna do now. Right there. I mean, these are just cool. I mean, they're just cool pieces of nostalgia because you don't find these little action figures like this out there in the wild anymore. You know, they're very hard to come by, very hard and rare. This one used to have something in his hand. Looked like it got sheared off at some point in time, maybe, or that's all he had. I don't know. I don't know much about these action figures other than they are Ajax Archer action figures from 1950s, and it's just a cool piece of nostalgia. You know, one of the Land of the Lost Monsters. That's awesome. The Slee Stacks, little green guys with the pointy uh, bones sticking out of the top of their head, the lizard people. Yes, the Slee Stacks. Very cool. Chaka and the Robinson family. Um, I mean, I used to have the Battlestar Galacticas. I didn't have any Lost in Space or Land of the Lost. I didn't have any of those. Um, or if I did, I don't remember them. I had Crystar. I had Shogun Warriors. I had, all these cool stuff. And I did see a Shogun Warrior pop up on Marketplace just the other day, just yesterday, as a matter of fact. And um, they were saying very, very rare and hard to find, which I'm sure it is. But I'm pretty sure they didn't have the bullets that went into the fingers there, little plastic bullets, and that you shoved in their little rockets. You shoved in the fingertips, and then you hit the button on top, and it would shoot them out. You know, but they still want 100 and I think 125 or 150 for it. I was like, I mean, that's probably a good price because again, you don't see those very often. Uh, and I used to have a few of those as a kid, and they're 24 inches tall. I mean, the things are this big. They're huge, and they're twice the size of Lion-O here. You know, because he's only a 9 or 12 inch figure. I don't know. So the Shogun Warriors, they were a kind of like a Voltron of their time. Uh, this big robot had a tiny sword in his hand, but on his left hand he had these projectiles that you could shove in to his fingertips, and then there's red buttons right here on top of his hand that you would push, and it would shoot out those projectiles. It's kind of like the early Boba Fett action figure of its day. That had the actual shooting rocket that came out of his backpack area, and they were about 24 inches tall, 2 feet tall, and they were just a kid's dream because it was a huge robot toy, back in the 70s. And if you look it up, you can find them pretty easy. Uh, which I don't have any up to show right now, but it was just a cool toy because as a kid you're wanting things to shoot out and hit other things and stuff like that. That's why you had your rubber band guns and I mean, not so much your cap guns because that didn't do anything for you except for make a sound, you know. So that's where the BB guns came in handy because you could shoot your toys, and all the Hot Wheels that I had as a kid, you know. It's just all the nostalgia. And now as an adult, you can find that stuff if you want to pay the price. And it's just like, remember the gun with round bullets? Oh yeah, from Star Trek. Not an action figure though. I digress. No, but it's still part of that collectibles stuff, you know, because they had a lot of cool toys back in our day, um, that didn't fall under the category of action figure, you know. But it was still a collectible item today, in that sense. Now back then, not a lot of people were collecting this stuff. It's like whenever people were reading comic books back in the 30s, whenever Superman and Batman came out after the pulp craze. You know, uh, people used to roll those things up and put them in their back pocket. You know, and because this isn't going to be worth anything later on, and it sells for 180 some odd $1,000 or more at an auction. You know, one that was in decent condition, and there's some good conditions of them out there. Just like this collection that I picked up from my friends of mine, a couple of years back. Um, there's a lot of nice condition comics that were, yeah, unfortunately he wrote on them with his code or whatever, but key issues, it doesn't matter. If I get those graded, you know, the price just went up on those. And like Hulk 181, 182, uh, the Luke Cage Hero for Hire #1, you know. I mean, there's potential to be a $10,000 comic book in this stuff, you know. And then again, you look at it like, what are you gonna do with all this stuff? You got your collection of your Uncanny X-Men from the 1963 run, to the 2002, whenever they decided they wanted to end it and start over again, which still makes no sense to me. But and now they're up to like volume 6 of Uncanny X-Men, and it's just like, you got to be kidding me! Come on, stick with one and go. But I mean, between the Fantastic Four, Avengers, the Defenders, all those things like that, it's like, and now you got Batman and Superman that are some of the longest running titles out there since they decided they wanted to kill Uncanny X-Men, which would have been one of the longest running titles, with 500 issues and all that good stuff, heading towards its 600 issue. Um, it's just like, why did you kill it? Why, as a whole, did you kill it and have to try to reimagine the characters as they are now? You know, because that's the characters you turn them into aren't the characters that they were. Um, but it's to each their own. And I don't collect the Uncanny X Men as much anymore. I still just look for my issues that I'm needing to fill my holes in the in the areas that I have. I'm getting close. I'm getting closer to having the whole run. Now, some of the early issues, like number one, again, I won't have that one. Most likely, probably 1 through 20, I might never have. You know, but I've got some early ones. I've got 29 as I think is my earliest issue, but I need to find a better copy because the one that I do have was, you know, eaten up, and I got it for $3, so I couldn't complain. But it's still you can still read the story. So, um, but in the collection that I got, I have you know the whole giant sized X Men when the new team arrives. And then I've got the key issues leading up to issue 100. All of that stuff. You and for those of you that are just joining us and are wondering what's going on, we're talking about action figures, collectibles, comic books. That's what we do here. We talk about all kinds of cool, nostalgic stuff. We talk about comic book artwork. We talk about comic books. We talk about my artwork. We talk about my comic books. We talk about all kinds of cool stuff here. So, oh, that's nice. I'm glad you enjoy some Spears. She was a hot commodity after a while, but that has faded a long time ago. but um but yeah, so whenever they changed and killed the Uncanny X-Men in 2002 and decided to redo it all, they have so many different things going on, that doesn't even relate to the story anymore, as it used to. And it all just changed. And exactly. But that's how people are. They try to come on other people's platforms and disrupt everything. And he's probably related to that one person that I had to block the last time that they started doing this type of stuff. So you can go find something that you enjoy, Mr. Jerry, from Ben and Jerry's, and you can go see yourself out before I have to just see you out myself. So, um, once they changed it all and killed it, it's just like, why? Why did you have to do it? Because all you had to do was continue the story and then start making your changes, that you wanted to make in the whole continuity of the comics. And it's like, why did we have to go to the extreme of ending the series and then starting it again, with a volume two? And then we only lasted so many issues in that one. Now we're at volume three. And it's kind of like the action figures of our time, because we had the cool runs in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s. And then all of a sudden, they start rebooting them, you know? And then they've got the reaction figures, which I don't have any of those sitting here, but they're the basically repressings of the original figures, just redone for today's times. And so they've got tons of those called reaction figures. The girlfriend has a couple of those in the bedroom, um, and we've got Dexter in there. We've got the Misfits in there, and we've got the Dark Passenger and a Dexter. So we've got two different ones, and then we've got the Misfits action figure, and they look decent, but they're not the greatest action figures in the world, you know. Um, and it's just like the company that makes now. It's not the Bandai figures. I've got them sitting right here in the corner. But they do the Slash and the Ozzy Osbourne figures and the Kiss figures and things like that. Do a lot of the heavy metal stuff and rock and roll stuff. Um, I like those big Chuckies. Yes, the ones that are at Spencer's. Uh, those are cool. The Bride of Chucky, and then the Tiffy figure, and then the massive ones, the massive, the full size. You know, the ones that could come alive and chase you around your house. You know, yeah, those are cool. Again, high price to pay, but you know, for the cool stuff, you're gonna have to pay a high price. It's just like the Super Seven figures that they come out with now. You know, like 4 feet tall. Yeah, yeah. You know, those things are massive, and the box alone. I mean, it's just like seeing him open up the good guy doll, you know, for his birthday on Chucky, and it's the same concept, you know, and it's like the Super Seven action figures. It's like, why do I want to pay $180 to $200 for an action figure? Oh, because it's cool. Because it's got all these articulated parts. It's got the different hands. It's got the different faces. It's got the, you know, all this cool stuff that goes with it. But they just went $200, you know. And it's like people that buy the bust or statues now. That who's the maker of them now? Diamond, or I can't remember who makes most of the bust anymore. But they're spending $1,000 on one bust of a character, you know, and oh, Robert the Doll, the one that if you say bad things about it, bad things happen to you. So we don't talk ill of Robert the Doll. Now, Annabelle, that's a different story. So yeah, I got what you were talking about, a duplicate of Robert. Um, but it's just like, why would you want to spend that type of money on those things? I mean, now if you've got that kind of disposable cash, and you're just and that's what you're truly into, you know, I can understand that, you know. But most people don't have that kind of despicable cash to just throw and waste on action figures and huge bust, life size bust of things, you know. And so it's just like, so why are you doing it? You know. But I guess for that nostalgic feel, that feel good in yourself, and hey, I've got lots of money that I can spend, you know, those type of situations. Uh, and and I mean, now if I had the money, sure, I would do different things. But right now, what I'm trying to do with my money is rip this house apart and start over. You know, so I've got loftier goals than to buy a bunch of action figures that are just going to collect dust on my shelf like they already are. You know, so then I start looking at that's what I was saying earlier. That's why I'm looking at, you know, do I start liquidating these things now? You know, because are my kids going to even want to deal with this stuff whenever I'm gone? You know, all these action figures, all these autographs with COAs. You know, are they going to want any of this stuff whenever I'm gone? Because do they even like Kate Beckinsale or the Fawns or Elvira or Dr. Britt Baker or Hugh Jackman? You know, all these autographs that are sitting on my walls. Uh, from people that they've probably never even heard of as well. Because I used to do the the Bam box, the horror box from Bam when it was coming out, and I got a ton of autographs of people in horror movies and things like that. I mean, right here, you know, Kerr Smith, his autograph right there with the COA right there. All you got to do is scan that little code right there, and I've got all these different ones like that. Yeah, the it's cracked up here. So, but Kerr Smith from Final Destination right here, you know, autograph. And you know, are they even going to want any of this stuff? You know, and it's just like, and that's just one example uh, from what I've got because I've got a whole stack of them. that aren't even, I used to frame them and put them on the walls, but then I started getting to the point where it's like, well, I've got no wall space now, you know. And now that I've cleaned up the library area per se a little bit, now I've got to put more shelves on the wall. And then we started talking about, well, why don't I move my office to the library, give myself a little more space. That's a good one, Casey. Do I have an Elvis autograph? No, I do not. I wish I did, because that one I can flip pretty easy, you know. But then you'd have the people that, well, is this authentic? Do you have the certificate? Dude, when he signed this, there was no certificate of authenticity. Okay, it's just like when Stan Lee signed my stuff. There was no certificates of authenticity back in the '90s. People didn't care. They had their pictures and their memories in their head, and saw him sign this stuff themselves. You know. Um, but yeah, no, that would be a good one to have right there. A lot of those old ones would be awesome to have autographs thereof. Um, yes, you totally can, because if it was done in a felt tip or a ballpoint or whatever, it will tell you. It can show you, and and that's the beauty of things. All pretty much everything I have in here has a COA with it. There's a few items that don't. Like my Dr. Britt Baker, I've got pictures to prove that she signed that a piece of artwork that I did that's just sitting right up here. So actually, I can show you guys. I can't show you guys, but I can show you guys that piece right there. And then I've got Mira Sirtis right there. This one does not have a COA. I've got Elvira. That one I think has a COA with it. I've got Darth Vader up there. I got Henry Winkler. I've got Polly Peretti, two different ones up there in the back corner. But you can see the other one right there. Hugh Jackman, Liam Schreiber right there. That one's got a COA. She spelt my name wrong, but Lydia Gay Scott right up there from when she was on Batman. Of course, you've got Kate Beckinsale. You got Pattison and whatever her name is right there. I got, oh, what's her name? Tracy Scoggins up there. I actually sent off for that one, communicated with her directly. Adam West over here. These are just a few of the autographs that are adorning my office right now. You know, and it's just like some of these don't have COAs. Like Adam West doesn't have a COA. I just remember standing in line because Rock 100, the .5, the cat out of Oklahoma City, brought him in, and we were at Mega Market, Supermarket, and Kiss 98.9 was there as well, giving away free pictures of him, and he autographed my 1966 March 11th, Life magazine cover, The Mad New World up there, and he autographed my theme record, and he autographed the picture that they had there as well. So I can remember, those. Count Gregor, of course I do. Count Gregor on TV was awesome. Um, and there was another one in that same vein as Count Gregor. Yeah, yeah, but he was always cool, Count Gregor. Um, but it was just fun seeing them on TV, doing the monster shows and things like that. It's just like Wolfman Jack, on the radio. Oh, that's awesome. I've got a whole book of autographs running around here somewhere. And that's when I started doing it in the the late '90s to early 2000s. I started going to finding how I could get their autographs, and that's awesome. Met him at TV 43. That's cool. And so I would start writing these people, um, and next thing I know, here comes an autograph picture or an autograph something, a letter or something like that from them. And I picked up quite a few autographs that way. Um, or Mark DeCosco, who played the Crow on the TV series, um, and a few other things later on in life. Uh, Jim Davis, if you know who Jim Davis is, I've got his autograph. You know, Garfield. Um, and I got some all kinds of different people's autographs that way, and that was just writing to them through a specific thing, and and Rayleigh Fingers. That's awesome. See, you've got a lot of cool stuff, Casey, that you need to tell the world about when you're writing your book. You know, that's what we want to know. When you're writing your life book, because that would be cool to see all the stuff that you've done, the people you've met, and the unfortunately there would have to be the struggles in there too, as all of our books would. Well, I mean, so what? You're the next Stephen King. Boom, there you go. But no, I get it. I mean, I would have horror stories in mind too, um, from childhood. Uh, to that 3 year stretch in there, you know, 2008, 2009, 2010, uh, when there was deaths in the family back to back to back, less than a year apart, basically for all of them. Um, you know, it's just little things like that. We could all write our own stories, if we really thought about it. And on that same token, you know, some people wouldn't have the horror stories that other people have. And on that note, Foreman Scotty, um, Foreman Scotty. You're not talking about Montgomery Scott, are you? I'm trying to remember that one. I mean, unless you are talking about Montgomery Scott. No. Local Oklahoma City. Oh, no. No, I don't remember him. I'm trying to think. That one's not ringing a bell. Okay. Yeah, no. No, I don't remember him. Because you got to think, I was 71. You know, that's when I was born in 1971. And so that's closer to my brother and sister's age right there. Because they were born in 64 and 65. So it's okay. It happens. Um, and so no, that one I don't remember. So see, I'm 10 years behind you. So yeah, I just turned 54. So earlier this month, and you can still donate. Not you, Casey, but anybody can still donate to my birthday fund out there. All my Cash App stuff. Danny Williams, yes, definitely remember Danny Williams. I mean, it's just like all the Rock 100.5, the Cat people. I can't remember their names right off the top of my head, but they had an impact on my childhood, basically. Uh, Listening to the music and the stuff that they would talk about and all that good stuff. You because that became my radio station of choice. Because my grandparents and my parents tried to push me to all the country stuff, and I'm like, no, I can't do the country shit. Sorry, and I just like I couldn't do the coffee and the tea that they wanted me to drink too. In my teens. Well, younger on the tea, but coffee in the teens is just like, no, this is gross. You and then you guys put enough sugar in it to kill a mountain lion. So, yeah. But yeah, oh, but no, all that nostalgia from the childhood, the things that we remember, the things that we remember growing up with, you know. And well, I'm glad you hate sweet tea too, and you love unsweet tea. Oh, that's even worse. That tea flavor. Ugh, I just can't. That's the bad part about it is that tea flavor, that that hard back taste that you get from that tea, and it's just never been a good thing for me. I've just never liked it at all. But I appreciate the likes, the shares, the follows, all of that good stuff. Yes, you could definitely tan some hides with it, just like some coffee that my grandparents used to drink. Straight black and cooked all day for some of it, and came out as like a glob, looked like the blob from the old movie, and yeah, sometimes. But hey, looky there. I got a reply to this one. I don't know how long ago he replied to me there, but on Facebook, because I don't have my Facebook one up over here. So let's reply to you if I can. Oh, come on. Go. Come on. That's what I hate about this up here. It's so slow. Come on. But yeah, no. Yes, Facebook has live. I'm live there now, as a matter of fact. Um, and I don't keep it up, so I missed this comment. I don't even know how long ago this comment was on here because it doesn't tell me when the comment came through. But apparently they're not watching anymore because it does show me the viewers and the comments and all that stuff. So I missed his comment there earlier today. Oh, he was on almost an hour ago with me over there, and I missed him. It's the guy I'm doing my covers and stuff for here on Legacy Comics. Is Mr. Patrick Hickey Jr. And I appreciate him stopping in, and I apologize to him now for not seeing it until just now, which is you know a long time ago, and that's on me because like I said, I don't keep this up. I keep my other monitor up so I can see, make sure everything's running smoothly on the platforms that it's going live on. So trying to see if it will let me reply to his. Somewhere it will. All right. So yeah, so I keep my main dashboard up, which is my OBS, which is Open Broadcasting Source, and the 31st variation thereof. And it does great, but it doesn't do everything you really want it to do. Like, there's other programs out there that will allow me to have Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram all up and broadcasting at the same time. And then I can see all the comments that come through on each one. I think that's how that works. I could be wrong. I don't know that yet. And so, that's what I'm striving to hit is my next step, my next endeavor, my next goal when it comes to this. Just because, I want to be able to see everybody's comments that come through on all the platforms. Now, what I really need is multiple screens, you know, but I don't have the space in here to do that. Because I need another screen to have that up so I can be like, oh, hold on just a second. I've got a comment over here, so I need to answer that comment there. You know, just like here, I can read the comments coming through, But up here, I've got my main screen for OBS up, and behind that screen is my, Facebook Live screen that's going live right now. And so it's like, so if I had multiple screens, like the Batman setup where he has like 50 screens, I could have a different project up on each screen, and it would be much cooler. But I do not have a wall of TVs like that. Um, One of these days, maybe we'll see. Uh, but right now, I do not, and that's just how it goes. So it is what it is, and we may do as best we can. And I know he's not watching anymore, but he just left his comment whenever he stopped in for himself right there. And he's the guy I'm doing a new book with his new with this coming out later next year, and I'm doing all of the entire book, cover, interior artwork, all that good stuff. So, and in the Frank Miller style, if you think of Sin City, 300, Dark Knight, Batman's Dark Knight Returns, all that good stuff. The gritty, the a lot of the black and white is what it's going to be. So, and that's the cool part about it, is that you've got that opportunity to do that type of thing, and this is going to be my first consecutive artwork pieces in a book. Now I've done some in an old anthology that I did a long time ago, back in the late '90s, early 2000s, and whenever I was trying to do a little book then, when I had other people's artwork in it and stories and things of that nature. I actually need to go back and look through some of those and see if anybody's still out there doing the same things that they used to do. See if they're even still out there. See if they're still alive, to be honest. I'm sure they are. And so, that was a fun little magazine that I was putting out back in the day. And crappy artwork as I go back and look at it. In retrospect to everything that I've been doing here lately, and it's just like, well, that was then, this is now. You're doing a lot better work now than you did back then. So, you know, it's time to reinvent some of the stuff that you did back in the day, you know. And it's just like now with all this stuff that I'm working on, I've got 3 different ones, right here. The pet portrait that I'm working on right now, right here. Yes, he's in a wheelchair, but he wanted the wheelchair in there because I asked him specifically, do you just want your pooch, or do you want? He's like, can we put the wheelchair in there? I was like, we sure can, because that's how he used to get around. How he used to push his dog around after it got, at a certain weight and all that good stuff, and that was his baby, and so he had his own little wheelchair they got pushed around in. So, it's all those nostalgic little things like that that people, want to. And this is going to be a memorial piece that goes on the tombstone for his dog that he created. So it's going to be sealed completely with probably resin, if I had to guess. That way it'll last a lot longer, and weather well, or hopefully weather well, because it's going to be outside. I'm not sure if he's got like a little awning over the top of it, anything like that. So, well, I appreciate that. Some people would call me, well, I can't use some of the terms that they would call me, but very interesting, to say the least. Is a good way to put it. I'm weird. I'm eccentric. I am not everybody's cup of tea, if you will. Um, I've got so many different likes and tastes that a home decorator would go crazy trying to figure out how to decorate everything in the house. Because I've got that old world soul that I could live in a log cabin just perfectly fine with a wood burning stove. You know, but I also like some of the definitely, definitely. But no, no, it's all fun. I mean, there's like I said, I've got so many different tastes that an interior designer would go crazy trying to figure out, how to decorate my house. If, you know, so I'm the home decorator. Well, the girlfriend definitely. So just like the people I have to block on the show every now and again. Hey, Poupon. Why, yes, I do. Let me pull it out of the fridge. Hold on. Just kidding. I don't have any Grey Poupon in there. I actually don't have any Grey Poupon. I've got some brown Dijon mustard. You know, spicy brown Dijon mustard at that. But yeah, no, it, it's all fun and games. It's all good because you know it's one of those things that I've grown up in so many different eras, just like you have, and I definitely don't have any Vegemite. um, and you've grown up through several different eras, you know, and and it's just like each era has its own uniqueness to it, um, and it's like you want to keep certain aspects from each of those eras intact today, but the world has changed so much. And yes, we see some of those trends come back around, just like we saw the bell bottoms come back around, just like we saw the '80s neon come back around. You know, um, and you know each era has something picked out of it. '80s and '90s. Uh, I mean, the leg warmers came back for a hot minute. You know, it's just so many different things that you see from our lifetime that come back around. It's just like, wow, I never thought I'd see that again. You know, and then how they start making some of the newer stuff look like retro vintage items. You know, because which sparks an interest to us Gen Xers, or you know the people that were born in the '60s and '50s and things like that, and the '70s and early '80s, and then they start bringing back these items that are and that are modernized, you know, and it's just like, well, now you've got my interest because I like the style that you've created, you know, out of something from the '70s, the '60s, the '50s, but I got you, which is awesome, you know, and the awesome part is you're still here, you know, and you've still got your stories to tell. That's why I said get that book in the works, dude. Get that book in the works. Um, Even if it turns into a horror story, you know, hey, you've got years on you, buddy. You've got years on you. But get that book going. Come on, do it. Come on. And you know, unfortunately, I can say this. Um, there's a lot of AI helpers for writers out there. I would not use it myself, but I know some people love using AI. You know, it's just like the TikTok videos that transforms them into something else in their videos and things like that. You know, well, there you go. Stick people make people a lot of money. Trust me. You don't even have to have pictures in the book. Just write the book. You know, you've got those. You've got stories to tell, and that's like everybody. Everybody's got stories to tell. You know, and if you need the AI helper to help you write this story, go for it. I can't stop you. I can't tell you, not to use AI. But yes, exactly. The yellow smiley face, you know, and then it turns into an insane button on, Evil Ernie back in the Chaos days. Smiley, the psychotic button, which I have a painting of right in there. A little 4x4 painting, you know, and the peace sign, yes, and Kilroy was here, you know. I mean, all those little things that made people so much money, that they didn't even think was gonna be anything, back in the day. Just some little saying out there that caught on, and yes, exactly, rip, and that's not just your jeans, or a thing in the military, a rip course. And so, but yeah, I mean, or happy little accident. Totally rad. I mean, all these little nuances and characteristics and sayings and things like that people came up with later on. And excuse me, yes. So, um, it's just one of those crazy little things that nostalgia comes back around. You know, I saw a post going around on Facebook that says, "Tell me something a vocabulary term that was popular in your day that is no longer relevant in today's times." And it's just like, well, totally would be one from my day, uh, and so many others. But it's just like, well, which one do you want to pick? I mean, you know, you've got so many verbiages that aren't used anymore. That nobody even knows what they are anymore. And you say it to somebody and they're like, "What? Are you special or something?" You know? I do remember Wanda Jackson. Um, I ran across something of hers just the other day. I think it was an antique store or something like that. But it's like, I remember her. And not something that I would own, but you know, that's just me. But she was pretty intricate herself, or interesting, or eccentric. That's what I was trying to say. Herself with her stuff right there. But yeah, yeah, I remember her vaguely. Not 100%, but once I saw the picture of her or whatever it was that had her in it or on it, ah, Elvis got her going. That's awesome. That's very cool. I'm sure he got a lot of people going. Hey, mama, how about a peanut butter and banana sandwich, mama? There's some things, you know, I still question about him. Especially some songs that he sang, and I have questions that no one can answer. I don't think you. Thank you very much. Yes, I got you. But yeah, no, we won't go there. There's already enough songs that people are getting bashed for nowadays. That they sang back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Yeah, yeah, I'm afraid so. That's just my opinion because if you watch this one video where he's got this like 10-year-old kid, and he's playing the guitar to her, and the way he's looking at her, the way she's looking at him, there was something happening there. I just, yeah, I'm not saying that it was. It's just how it looks. It's just like all these, like I said, there's a TikToker that does all these first time hearings of these songs. You know, yes. 2414, rest my case. Yes, my life. Thank you very much. and and he listens to all these songs that people recommend, and once he figures out what the actual lyrics are talking about, he's just like, "Oh my god, I'm out. I'm done. Peace, bye." And it's just like, you know, yes, yes. No, I get that. And see, my mom was a huge Elvis fan. I was never really a big Elvis fan. You know, I can tell you his songs and things like that, his catalogs, and this outfit, this outfit, this outfit, so on and so forth. I even did a painting of a classic of him, with his dragon uh, sequin suit, but I did a younger version of him, and then the dragon sequin suit was behind him. No, 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 no. Everybody has their own opinions on stuff like that, and it's just like me. I don't like the Beatles. Can't stand the Beatles. I cannot stand them. You know, everybody's like, but they're the pioneers of the rock movement and all. I don't care. I don't like them. That's my opinion. I do not like the Beatles. You know, um, and but so many people love them, and I've got some Beatles records sitting right back over here somewhere or in the other room. I can't remember. And yeah, 100%. And but everybody loves them and talks about them on a regular basis. And it's just like, and I had a boss that was that way. Every conversation was about the Beatles. It was just like, shut up. I can't stand the Beatles, dude. You know, but you want to talk about them 24/7. I get it. You love them. And you would be with them if you could. That's the type of person he was. But it's just like I don't like them. I can't stand them. I don't like their music. I can tell you their musics and all that stuff, but I don't have to subject to them. The only stuff that I like of theirs, it was when it was redone by somebody else. Live and Let Die, you know, by Guns N' Roses, you know. And even Paul McCartney recalls that story of seeing this, what he thought was a cracked out dude sitting on the steps, and they were wondering how he got backstage, you know. And it was Axl Rose came to talk to him about Live and Let Die. And uh, yes, I know it's under Paul McCartney and not the Beatles, but the Beatles, I'm pretty sure, covered that too. Um, but he was like, I didn't know who this guy was, you know, and this is Paul McCartney and Axl Rose telling the story, and he was like, I was about to have him thrown out until he told me who he was and who he was with, and then we got to talking, and yes, they did a lot better things, um, and so and then they got to talking about, hey, I want to cover as a group, we want to cover Live and Let Die on our next album, and it took him a while to agree to it, but he finally said, okay, well, I'll let you do it, so not bubblegum and drugs, yeah, and all the cryptic stuff that they had going on. Paul McCartney is dead and all that stuff, and it's just like it was all a gimmick. People, come on, get real. They wanted you to buy the records, and they wanted you to do this. They wanted you to keep talking about their stuff. You know, number nine, number nine, number nine, number nine. Throw a number 10 in there, please. Let's move on. You know. Yeah. Your mother is watching. Um, but yeah, no, it's just one of those things that everybody talks about them, everybody loves them, and I can't stand them. You know, I just never got into it. And yeah, they had some catchy tunes. Yeah, they had this, that, and the other. But even Ringo Starr had a little better music than what the Beatles put out. You know, yes, or Upside Down, if you want to go that way, because a lot of people talk about that. But we're not talking about the religious aspect and all that stuff. You know, Mark of the Beast, those type things. I saw creepy facts and things like that. There's a tombstone out there on this one woman's grave, and it says killed by, or I think it said killed by the beast, and it had the number on it. And it was just like, um, yes, all the cryptic backmasking and all that stuff, you know, and so Squee, I'm about to end my show, so we're not on long. So if you want to type something up, go ahead. Um, because I'm about to end. I got to go take care of the animals. And I'm sorry, I've already been on for an hour and basically 40 minutes now. So, um, but yeah, it said killed by Mark of the Beast, and then it had the numbers on there. You know what the numbers are. And it was just like, well, that's interesting. How'd they know that this person was unalived by or killed by this, by that, or is it just something they wanted to get, you know, a talking point whenever they stopped this person's gravestone, since it was on the ground, and it was just like maybe it's just a talking point that they wanted, you know, um, because a lot of people will do that on their tombstones. They'll put different things on there and be like, well, this is going to be a talking point for years on, you know, and what tips do I have? Just keep doing it. Be consistent. Like mine's every other day. I used to get about 100 to 200 viewers on a shot. I mean, by the end of this, I'm gonna have close to 1,000 viewers since I've been on this long. Um, but most people don't stay long. Squee. Um, they, for whatever reason, unless you're a woman with some big jugs hanging out of your shirt, they don't stick around. You know, I have devout followers that come on my show, like Casey and Roy and Mr. Nice Guy, and there's a few other people, out there, um, that stick around and actually have conversation about what we talk about, which is comic books and movies, horror movies, sci-fi movies, things of that nature. Like today's topic was action figures, and we got to talking about all of the nostalgic toys from our childhood, and how we wish we still had some of those, today, because they would be worth. I would be set right now if I had my childhood toys. Uh, I could sell them all and be like, okay, there's $50,000 that I just got in off of toys, you know, from my childhood stuff. Okay, we can talk in text. That's not a big deal. I'll hit you up here in a little bit. Um, and so yeah, just be consistent with everything. Have daily topics or every other day topics or however you want to go live. I don't know how you want to go live. You know, some people go live later in the days. So the 1970s, the 1960s, 70s, 80s toys are worth a lot still. Uh, you know, it's just like this one could be $100 toy that I'm holding in my hand right now. Princess Leia, like I said. You but all right, folks. I'll hit you back up here in a little bit after I take care of my aminals that I gotta go let out and all that good stuff. But I am going to end it for today. I do appreciate each and everybody being here. I appreciate the follows, the likes, the shares. And if you go up over here to my profile, you can follow my other pages, which is Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and you're here live on TikTok. But you can hit me up on all of those. And nice to see you too, Casey. As always, have a good day, buddy. And anybody else that's on here stuck around for this most of this time, you guys have a great day, and we will catch you on the flip side. Have a good day, everybody.